Hey everyone, Maya here. This is Talky Tidbits, and yeah, I know it's been so long since I did an episode of Talky Tidbits. It's been many months, many weeks, I guess. I know it's been a couple months since I did math videos. I think that's what I was thinking of. But, I've been using these last couple months to really kind of find myself in the things that I do. And so I just want to talk about some of those insights today with you, fellow listeners. Well, let me just say the point at which I am in life, I feel, is certainly not something I ever pictured or imagined myself becoming. And I mean that in the sense of how I try to delve into a variety of things. I mean, I'm not like the best at everything that I do, I think, but I practice and I keep my passion about them. And I think in the end that's really what matters, right? Is that it's about knowing and understanding that maybe the professionals in a field or a hobby or an interest, maybe the professionals aren't actually professionals. Maybe, I don't know, maybe the professionals are just amateurs who don't give up, right? And so if you think about that motto, if you think about that perspective with how you might approach a hobby or interest on your own, then you really have nothing to lose in general as far as following your dreams or following your goals, okay? And I say this because when I think about what I've accomplished at this point in my life, I'm not trying to, first off, I'm not trying to make it out more pridefully than it is, because I really, really, really don't like boasting. I really, really don't, okay? And part of the reason I started making these hopefully motivational videos was because I wanted to figure out a way to kind of inspire people and inspire others, from people that I know personally to people from other places that could be listening to this one of these days. And so at this point, I feel that it's really important to remember that where you are in life now is not where you're going to be for the rest of your life. I was originally going to start off this recording, this podcast episode. I was originally going to talk about, how finding myself has kind of given me more confidence in myself as a person. But this goes along with that too. The point is, you have to learn how to be more sure of yourself, which can be hard. But at the same time, I was just thinking of this video I was watching on YouTube. Like, literally, I was just watching it like 5 or 10 minutes ago. It was a comedy clip, dry bar comedy, so like age-appropriate comedy, all that stuff, yeah. But the comedian was saying how life changes you, and how in life you are changed by the places you go and the people you see and meet. And that really resonated with me, which is interesting considering that usually when I watch a comedy clip, I end up laughing more than I think deeply about things. But that really hit me hard, and I realized if we apply that as a general idea in our lives, that can bring a different kind of perspective, don't you think? I mean, where you are now or where you were is not necessarily where you will be tomorrow. And I mean that on both sides of the spectrum. So if you're, for instance, doing really well now, and maybe you weren't doing well in the past, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be an on-off cycle of bad times and good times. I mean, life is filled with bad times and good times. I think what it boils down to is learning to pick up the pieces and keep going, to not give up, okay? One of my favorite quotes from Kenjiro Tsura, translated, one of my favorite quotes from him is, "If you don't give up, you won't lose." And that message has resonated very deeply with me, because I think about it in the sense that even if you mess up, even if you fail, even if you screw up at something so much that you feel like giving up, okay? I make that point to emphasize. Even when you feel like you've given it your best shot and it's still not working, you haven't lost. You haven't lost when you make a mistake. I want you to remember that, because I feel like for a lot of people in life, whether you're a student studying something or a person trying to make ends meet through your lifestyle or your job, I feel this is something important to think about, that where you are now in life, if it's at a lower point in your life that you're currently going through, and I know maybe during this past year and a half, I think with the global coronavirus pandemic, that's definitely changed up people's lives a bit. I think it's important to remember that where you are now is not where you're always going to be. You know, if you want things to get better, then you can start at least by believing that they can get better. You can't control others' reactions, but you can control your own reactions to a situation. You can take the initiative, take charge, follow your heart, and yeah, I know that sounds kind of corny, kind of cliched, kind of an overused message, but I feel for a lot of things it still rings true. Let me give you a quick example. Last week, I finished a big translation project I had been working on for a few months over the summer, because I'm on my summer break as a university student. And when I finished that translation project, I was translating a film, if you want to know the details. I thought back to about 3 years ago, and I realized how far I'd come in actually believing in myself, in my worth as someone who likes to translate things. Because I thought about it. 3 years ago, I had come home from the library. I was doing some volunteering during the summer at the library, and every week, right before my shift ended, I would go over to the dictionary section, and this one time I borrowed tons of Japanese English and English Japanese dictionaries, because now this was back when I started translating songs that, oddly enough, are in the movie I translated. But the point is, I was so dead set on solving the mystery of these lyrics, because you see, when I translate, I feel a little like a detective. I feel like I have to put the words together. I have to put the pieces of the puzzle together. So sometimes it's not always clear. Sometimes it's not always easy, but it's like a mystery, and that's how I consider it. And at this point in my life, when I had started translating, I remember one of the first questions I had been asked later on was, what's the point of you translating this? What's the point of you doing this? This basically jotting down the lyrics and trying to translate them in my notebooks. You know, I was a high school student. I hadn't planned professionally on how I might use the language, Japanese, I hadn't planned on how I might actually use the language in my future, maybe in my career, or maybe just as an adult making her way through life. You know, I'm a university student, and that's not what I'm studying, but Japanese is still a very big part of my life, for sure. And, you know, I was hesitant to translate this film. I was hesitant, not just on this film, but every translation I've done since that point 3 years ago. I feel it's kind of helped me build confidence in myself, because now I look at this film, or, you know, not even the film, I think about how much more easily I'm able to understand the language of Japanese, just because I've kept at it, I've practiced. You know what, I mean, I live in the United States, okay? I live in the U.S., and, you know, I think Japanese is one of those languages that you don't see people knowing very often. You know, usually it's like a Romance language like Spanish or French or German or, you know, maybe Chinese. So it's often viewed, at least where I am, I think as a very kind of exotic thing still, because it's like, you know, oh, it's this thing, this language that not many people understand enough, or enough to communicate, or enough to understand a lot of things, and here you are able to understand this. And I think to myself, but the truth is, I'm really not a professional at it. I am not a native Japanese speaker by any means, but I keep at it, okay? I am not a professional. I know people who would look at me in this light like I am some kind of really intelligent translator when it comes to this stuff. But I think of it, I know it's easy to come to that conclusion, but deep down I feel I am not. Like what I was mentioning at the beginning of this episode, I am not a professional. You know, I am basically just an amateur who won't give up. I get stuck on translation a lot. There are times I have to wing it with what I'm doing, and I have to work with what I've got. But you know what? Translation, in this sense, has kind of helped me create a metaphor, a meaning, a symbol for life. It's that, you know, things aren't always what they seem. You know, things that seem easy to you or to me might be difficult for someone else out there, right? And so it's really all about, I think, keeping at, you know, I think it's all about not giving up on what you are passionate about or what you enjoy. Because my motto is, for the most part, if what you enjoy isn't hurting people or isn't like dangerous or like illegal in some way, obviously, then you shouldn't let anyone stop you from going after it. You know, whether it be a dream of maybe, you know, learning another language or learning something, or, you know, I think about it, I think of like how I am as a college student right now, and I think of how there are many people in the world, I think, who maybe don't have these opportunities. And what comes into my mind is that, you know, I think you have to not let age define you also. You know, when I was younger, I used to think that when I got to a certain age, I'd have to be more mature, more quiet, more serious. You know what? But okay, I'll say I'm almost 20, and I don't feel the need for that. I don't feel the need to sacrifice who I am just because of the age that I am. It doesn't make much sense to me. And I think there is no age limit to anything. You know, you don't have to give up on learning a language if you're so many years old. You know, you don't have to stop believing that you can do this just because you're older or you're an adult or whatever. You know, if you're 40 years old and you want to learn a language, go for it. If you're 50 years old and you want to make music, go for it. If you're 60 years old and you want to like travel the world, well, safely, you can go for it. I mean, there's no age limit for these things. You can learn to enjoy and love your life and improve your life and grow in your life no matter how old you are. And the point is, the core thing holding all this together, the core thing of this the core message of this episode, I guess. I ramble a bit, I know. The core message is believe in yourself. Believe that you have worth on this earth, because you do, whether or not you know it. You will fail, you will mess up, you will make mistakes with what you do, but you know what? You're still going to be able to get back up, I think, for the most part. If you can get up, if you can get back up, if you can try again, if you can believe in yourself, even when it feels like nobody else does, that can be the most powerful feeling in the world, I think. Well, one of them. I hope this gives you some insight. Believing in yourself, not giving up, living your life to the fullest, and loving what does surround you in your life. So I hope that gives some insight, and until next time, I'm Maya, and this is Talky Tidbits out.